Hi, my name's Matt and I'm one of the curates at Hartley Whitney, Winchfield and Dogmersfield. Today, in our reflections, we reach a bit of a turning point. Yesterday, if you've listened to it, Rosemary brought us an excellent reflection, summing up some of the big themes of Advent and looking at wrapping all that up and what that means for us. Some really helpful thoughts for this time of year that I suggest you go and listen to. But today we take a step forward. We step into the Christmas story itself. Over the next few days, alongside some poems and carols, we're going to take a journey through that first Christmas story and see what that means for us today. And so that brings us to the Bible passage for today. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. This was the first census that took place while Quirinius was governor of Syria. And everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. These few sentences are so exciting, though you may be questioning why, and confused as to why I'm so excited by them. If you've ever filled in a census form, you're probably aware that it's not the most thrilling thing to do. And I'm sure as Mary and Joseph took that long walk from Nazareth to Bethlehem, they weren't exactly overjoyed either. But there is something stunning going on here. There were so many things promised about Jesus, told about his life and who he'd be, what he'd be like, so many things that were fulfilled. In fact, I think there are so many that, in all honesty, it's impossible to think that they could just be coincidences. Not least, you have absolutely no choice over the circumstances of your own birth. And here we have something truly amazing. Hundreds of years earlier, in that same prophecy we've been exploring in Isaiah, people were told that the promised one will be born in Bethlehem. And here we are, with Jesus born in Bethlehem on that first Christmas night. That in itself is amazing. But what makes it even more incredible, even more astounding, is that it all happened because of the Romans. And in this we see the awesome power of God. He made a plan that his son would be born in Bethlehem. But Mary and Joseph lived in Nazareth, so that wasn't going to work. Now, God could have called Mary and Joseph and told them to go. He'd done that before with Abraham and others. He could have sent a prophet to go and proclaim to them what they needed to do. He'd done that many times too. But instead, he uses a decree from the Romans, the people currently occupying Israel, instructing people to return to their ancestral homes to be counted. And so, probably without fully knowing it, Mary and Joseph were literally walking into the promises of God. And the Romans were instrumental in bringing about the birth of the promised king, the one who would ultimately undermine the very power of the Roman Empire. Only God could do that. And he didn't need to. He could have done it much, much more simply. But I think this extravagance shows us two things that we desperately need to hear today. Nothing is outside of God's hands, and God wants to use you too. The Roman Empire, that oppressive, domineering empire, could be used by God to bring about his purposes. That means there is no situation, no area of life, no circumstances into which God cannot and will not shine his light of love. Nothing. He will always bless, always comfort, always move and work. Any mess you may have got yourself into, any mistakes you may have made, it isn't beyond God. It doesn't take him by surprise. It's not too much for him. Because he wants to use you too. He wants to speak to you, speak through you. He wants to bless you and bless others through you. He wants to use your life for good. You. If you're listening to this right now, I mean you. God wants to be with you. He does. He always has, and he always will. And he wants to do amazing things in your life. If God could bring the King of the whole world to be born through the life of Caesar Augustus, a man who wanted nothing to do with you, how much more